Hey there, welcome to the channel. Uh, Typically up to now I've been doing box openings, but this video is going to be something a bit different. So I'll talk through upcoming kind of grading submission that I'm doing. I'm not going to go through it in too much depth, but I'm just going to look at a couple of the cards that I'm going to send, what the kind of last minute checks I'm going to do in them. I've kind of got them mostly prepped, and actually then talk more about some of the cards I wanted to send but rejected to send and the reasons why I rejected them. Going to kick it off with a bit of Star Wars Unlimited. I actually just got a previous grading back today. I'd sent 3 showcases off to the PSA, so they came back 2 Idens and Grand Admiral Thrawn. They all came back PSA 10s, which I was tough with. Thought when I sent them they probably would, but there's always a good chance, especially you make mistakes, and maybe one of these might have been a 9 or an 8. But yep, really plays 3 PSA 10s. Was hoping have a few more Star Wars Unlimited cards to send off, namely these 2. The Vader that actually pulled on my first box opening I did for this channel, and a Boba Fett showcase. I didn't film the opening of this. It's done a while ago. But yeah, something to send that off and get it graded. But looking at these today, I've actually rejected sending them off. So I'm going to start off talking about why. I'm going to start off with the Vader. So things the PSA look for grading, pretty much all grading companies, are card centering, so how much is sitting in the center of the card. Surface condition, so things like scratches, misprints, imperfections on the surface edges, how clean and sharp the edges are, no kind of dents or creases or whitening, particularly on the back, the whitening's visible. And corners, they want the corners to be well rounded, or well, whatever way they're cut. Cut to a point, a good point. If they're round, good rounding. Star Wars Unlimited cards are actually kind of cut with like semi-rounded. There's like an oval cut out of them, so you get this kind of curve and 2 sharp points. And for kind of looking at these at home myself beforehand, I tend to use this here. It's like a wee magnifying glass, with a stand that I got on Amazon, and these are pretty cheap, and a ruler to measure the centering with. I did buy a centering tool off eBay. We don't seem to get the same ones here in the UK that people in the States get, but this thing's pretty useless for centering. These markings are too far apart to actually really use, so I just started measuring it myself with a ruler. So I get the light on this. I'm going to try and get an angle here where I can get this in shot in the camera and actually also seeing it myself. Let me see if I can line this up. Okay, so the first thing about this card is, if I focus on there anymore, is even visually, let's move that out of the way actually a second. The centering on this card is a bit iffy. Noticeably looks very heavy on the left hand side, a lot bigger. So I'm going to do first actually just measure and find out what the centering actually is for the card. So I have this here, the steel ruler that has a 0.5 millimeter measurements on it along the bottom here. And see if we can get this in camera. And this myself, I'm going to measure to the text box in the card here. It's the 0.5 millimeter measure. You probably read that better than I can. I'm having a hard time in shot, keeping it in shot and reading it myself. But let's see. I read that as 3.5 millimeters along this side. Go to the other side. looks like 2.5 millimeters to me. So 3.5 on the left, 2.5 on the right. If I pop some numbers into the calculator here, I'll be able to tell whether or not this is centered or not. So that comes up for me 41.6 on the right and 58.3 on the left. So that's actually within the 60/40 that the PSA a lot their maximum 60/40 for 10 grid. That doesn't mean anything within 60/40 gets a 10 grid, even if everything else is good. There are still descriptions quite fuzzy. So they say anything between 55/65 and 60/40. Is that right? That doesn't sound right. 45/55 and 60/40 can count for PSA 10, but I think the way that works is that if you get 55/45 or better, centering won't be marked against you. So you can have like another minor flaw with the card and you can still get a 10. If your centering is 60/40, however, centering will be counted against you. So like it means everything else on the card will have to be perfect in order to get a 10. With this card, however, unfortunately, everything else is not perfect. That shot again. So these two corners, first corner looking good, that second corner also looking pretty good. When we come around to this third corner, there's actually two problems with the card here. One is there's actually a bit of whitening on the corner that shows up on camera. If I pop this out of the sleeve, that'll make it a bit more visible. Just slide it out gently. And then there's actually a white dot just above my thumb on the card here, back. And then there's a wee bit of whitening on that top corner as well. So yeah, with those problems on the back of the card and the fact that this is pretty borderline centering, I'm not going to send that off. The other card then I was hoping to send off was this Boba Fett showcase card. On the face of it, it looks pretty good, particularly on this side. On this side again, at a glance, looks pretty good. But if you a bit closer inspection on the top, you can sort of see this right side is sitting higher than the left side here. So yeah, we're going to measure that again, see how well centered. This is a bit harder to measure the showcase cards. What I have been doing to get centering on these is I actually have a kind of a reference card. This is just a regular leader card, but it's very well centered, and I've been using the aspect icons on the top right, and basically this side isn't as well centered actually as this one. Yeah, I've just been getting the distance top and right for these aspect icons and then using it to gauge the showcase card centering. What I've tend to find with Star Wars Unlimited is everything should be 3 if it's perfectly centered. So it should be 3 from the right and 3 from the top. So let's take a look here and see what this card actually is. So from the right hand side, this is pretty good. This looks like it's 3 millimeters. Let's see if we can get a angle to measure the top. aspect icon here at the top of the card, however, comes in at, in fact, slightly less than 2.5. So very similar to the Vader 2.5 on that side, which you put it at 60/40 roughly. This is actually looking slightly less than 2.5. So it's probably more borderline. So with that alone, I might think it's a bit risky to send this in, but we'll see how well it comes up on the camera. There's actually a print line along that top edge, and it's literally just going almost straight down to the center of that aspect icon. I can see it under the light, the magnification here. I'm not sure how it will come up on camera. But yeah, with that print line and the centering, unfortunately, bulb is not going either. So that was my 2 Star Wars Unlimited cards I was hoping to send. They're not going to get going now. So next up, I actually have some Pokemon cards in. Quite a lot of Pokemon cards actually. Decent submission. I'm just gonna look up maybe 1, maybe 2 cards here quickly, but I'll go through the ones I'm going to send. Some of them, if you've been watching, the camera back out. If you've been watching any of my openings, you might recognize a few of them from the pools. So I've got the Gold Charizard from Obsidian Flames, Charizard EX, Tyranitar, and the Dragapult EX. Sorry, Dragapult EX is an Obsidian Flames. That's a Twilight Masquerade. I've got my Raiden EX Gold card. I got from Paldean Fates. Got Mimiku Shiny Rare from Paldean Fates and the Scyther Shiny Rare from Paldean Fates. Probably not really worth grading value wise, but I kind of want to get them slabs up and keep them. 2 of my favorite Pokemon, so I want to keep this for myself. And then these are from the Korean 151 boxes. We've got Erica's Invitation and the Illustration Rare Pikachu. The one I'm going to talk about first here is actually the. I'm actually going to talk about 2 Charizards. Talk about this one from Obsidian Flames and this one from Paldean Fates. Because one of them is good for grading and the other is not. So right off, looking at the 2 of them, they both look like they're slightly off center. Both sitting slightly left, but this Charizard is definitely sitting more to the left than this one. So if we take our magnifying glass, I'll zoom back in on that. Remember which direction the zoom works. I've got it wrong every time. And line it up here, just do a bit of measure. That looks about 2.5 to me on that side. And actually flip the card around, it's a bit easier to work with this on this side. On this side, we have too similar, between 2.5 and 3. The other side looked a bit less than 2.5. So I say about 2.25 and 2.75. So yep, again, pop those into my calculator here. And that comes out 45.55. Yeah, so it should be really good centering wise for sending off to the PSA. This Charizard, however, measure if it's left. Comes out about 2 millimeters, pretty square on. Flip it over. That's coming out pretty square on 3 millimeters. Now, 2 millimeters on one side, 3 on the other is pretty bang on 60-40 again. So this could theoretically be a PSA 10. If you take a look at the card, and what I would tend to do next is take a look at all the corners and the edges by scanning the card under the microscope. All looking pretty good on the front. So take a sweep over the surface under the microscope. Take a look for any scratches, just imperfections on the surface that might affect the grade, but the front actually looks really good. Flip it over to the back, and unfortunately the first thing you can see in this top corner is a bit of whitening. I think that's just a mark on the sleeve. Take a look at that. Another bit of whitening on this other corner. Yeah, so back of the card isn't great, and actually if we take a look at the back of the card as a whole, you can see it's very badly centered. Again, you get more grace for centering on the back of the card. Let me just do a quick measurement here without the magnifier. Yeah, it looks like it's probably within the 25-75 you're allowed for the back. But unfortunately with 60-40 on the front and this bit of whitening, I don't think that's going to get a PSA 10. So that one's been rejected. However, our gold charge art here, again looking at the corners and the surface on the front and the edges, it looks really spot on. Reader at the PSA might find a problem, but I certainly can't. And then the back on the edges, corners. This looks great, so I have very high hopes that this charge art is going to come back a 10. And yeah, I pretty much applied that to all the other cards in here. Most of these have been pretty well centered. This my right on particularly is beautifully centered, and I can't find anything worth crying about on the edges or corners. The back centering probably isn't the greatest, but it's definitely within the 75-25 allowance. Yeah, so hopeful. Again, you send these off for gradings. Certainly the graders are more experienced in this than me. They'll find problems that I don't, but I'm hoping that the majority of those are going to come back as 10s. Yeah, whenever they do, I'll post up a video and let you know what they come back as. Do you have a bonus non-Pokemon, Star Wars Unlimited card that I'm also going to send off for grading, and it is this. So I got a couple of 1993 Topps Street Fighter 2 cards recently, or packs of trading cards recently, and got really lucky and pulled a foil Chun-Li card out of one of them. I'm a Street Fighter fan, and when I play Street Fighter, Chun-Li's always been my character. So I was really chuffed to pull this card. I wouldn't say it's a absolutely perfect card. Just to show up the camera, but you can see there's definite print lines, a few marks on the foil, scratched here somewhere. I can't see it just now. There's a little bit of a mark on her boot here. On the back, we've got some kind of ink lines here and a bit of a dent with a bit of ink on it here. Otherwise, it looks really good. I'm not too worried when it comes back out. I just want to kind of slab to protect it a bit better. Keep it for myself. But I did do some research on some other cards. I did find the one and only PSA 10 for this up on eBay. So I was able to then use that to look at the PSA pictures of it and the current PSA 10 pictures of it. And I can see the PSA 10 pictures of it actually have print lines on them as well. Have a few misprint markings on it, a few like spots and dots around the card. Chun-Li has like a white spot on her dress, also a few black spots on her boots. The back of that card though looks completely flawless, unlike mine. But yeah, the 8, I've seen an 8 and a 9 as well. They have a lot of scratches and everything on the hollow on the front of the card. So yeah, I have high hopes that this is at least going to get, I'd say 8 at worst, but hopefully grade pretty well. So I'll post an update on that whenever I get these back, probably in a couple of months. Let you know how this does as well. Yep, that's everything I kind of want to talk through about the grading. Yeah, if you have any questions about grading, anything you're interested in, let me know. I'd be happy to do up a few videos on it. Or if you yourself have any cool cards you got graded recently, let us know in the comments. Otherwise, yeah, I'll see you at the next box opening.